Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 14 of Changing the Narrative. I am your co host, Murray Elbourne, and I am here with the lovely.
Elizabeth Rouse. Hello, everyone. We're excited you're back with us. And Murray, I'm excited you're back with me.
Oh, I did not sense that you missed me too much in the last episode. In fact, I did sense quite a lot of happiness that I was not in the room to talk about Australian cricket. And whilst we're on the subject of cricket, good job on the podcast with the interview. I thought it was very insightful, very funny, very uplifting, good story to tell. But I will say cricket is not such a good topic for me at the moment because Australia were bowled out of the T20 World Cup at the group stage. They
Ooh.
are defending two-time world champions, and they didn't even make it out of the group stage. I'm very disappointed in the Australian cricket team right now.
Well, I am very sorry for your loss. I am happy that I can be here to emotionally support you through your recent trauma. And I hope that you have been able to celebrate the fact that F1 racing is back for the year and my F1 husband won his first race this year. So
You're a George Russell aficionado. Is that what I'm getting?
I am an anti-Max Verstappen aficionado, and George Russell just so happens to be the man I've put my hopes in. So we'll see if it tracks. I always say that I'm a fair weather sports fan in that I celebrate sports when they're in season. I will vaguely track like football or baseball when they're not in season, but F1, I like turn off the race at the end of the year and I turn on the race at the beginning of the next year. So people are always like, "You're a bandwagon fan. You're picking George Russell. He's the fan favorite." And I'm like, "Nah, I don't know what's happening. I just go in and I pick, you know? It's
Yeah,
fired."
interesting. And the first race of the year was actually in Australia, in
It
Melbourne.
was. Hmm.
I know the track well. I have not been though to the Formula One Grand Prix in Australia, but I am hoping to be at the Formula One Grand Prix and will be in town this year in Las Vegas. So Lizzie, you have to come out,
Dude,
enjoy
I'm so down. Sold.
Formula
I'm
One
ready.
with me. We'll do
Yes,
a special Formula One podcast. It'll be
I
fun.
would love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so down. Just
All
tell me
right.
the dates. I'll put it on my calendar. I'm there.
November, my friend, November, late
November what?
mid-November. I think it's the second last weekend of November.
Okay. All right. We'll make a little Thanksgiving trip out to Vegas. I'll
Yeah,
pretend like I have money to spend in the city of sin or whatever it's called.
Sin City, but close,
Yeah,
close.
I was close, you know.
Yeah,
City of sin, Sin City, you know.
yeah,
Tomato
uh,
to potato, you know.
yeah. We're just talking about our attire for the show today, and I'm needed to embrace my femininity because Lizzie addressed a number of challenges in working with me, and the fact that males get all of the good stuff and females don't. And so today I wanted to be representative of our lady listeners, and so I'm wearing a pink Adidas, which
Hmm.
I will refer to in American as Adidas, uh,
Hmm. Hmm.
polo shirt. It is very pink, actually. It's kind of like a tablecloth pattern pink,
There you go.
which is no mistaking. And Lizzie today is sporting what you might think is a Peter Parker slash Superman outfit. And I did ask her of which of the two she wanted to be represented by. And Lizzie said,
Absolutely Spider-Man, without a question. Marvel over DC any day. And I also shared with Murray, Peter Parker, Spider-Man is my favorite superhero. I am favored toward the Tobey Maguire and Tom Holland Spider-Men in particular. Full disclosure, though, I don't know if I've ever sat down to watch the Andrew Garfield ones. So I guess I have some homework for myself.
I will say Tobey Maguire, number one, Uno. And also, Lizzie said that she might get her spidey senses out during the podcast. So that is something to look forward to for sure.
We'll see. See if I got like start scaling walls or something in here.
Exactly. She's going to pew pew us with the webs. Yeah, there you go. Good job. All right. It's funny how we just roll back into character, isn't it?
We do. We missed each other. That's what it was.
Yes. People say that we are hilarious.
You
Everybody
know,
says it
I like to
who
think so.
listens to the podcast. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's good. It's a good thing.
Thank you for buying into our ego game, guys. We really appreciate the support.
Exactly. Yeah. Important. We
Yeah.
are raising in the ratings, Lizzie. I did say that we've gotten some feedback, both the cricket episode and the episode that I did. So really, we haven't been together for quite a long time, Lizzie. We've done individual episodes
I know.
without being together. So it's been nearly a month to between our podcasts
Mhm.
together. So I'm pleased that we're back together. But um, new listeners, lots of feedback. Everyone, thank you very much for listening. We kind of just come on here and have some fun, and so we're glad that you guys can get something out of it.
Absolutely. We're excited you're here and we're ready for our next conversation. Murray, tell the people what they want to hear. What are we talking about today?
We are talking about inclusive communities, what makes them, what the benefits are for them. And in the same sense, we're talking about both internally within the blind
Mhm.
community and
Mhm.
externally in the mainstream community. What are things that are vital to be able to create that good atmosphere and environment where people feel part of something and feel valued?
Yes. Sounds like fun.
So, Lizzie, you can start. Ladies first. You see, I'm just changing all the time.
Aw, you usually let me go first. You're chivalrous. We knew that already. So I will offer just a couple of brief thoughts before I kick it back to Murray because I do want to hear from him. I really did miss him last week, guys. I'm not just spitting lies. I would say that my biggest experiences with inclusive community have always been the National Federation of the Blind, which is not going to come as a shock to anyone. I grew up in a mainstream public school, only blind person in my community and my family that we knew of for quite a while. And so I came from what I would coin the sighted world into the blind world for the first time when I was in the eighth grade. And the first time I ever went to the National Federation of the Blind's headquarters, the Jernigan Institute in Baltimore, Maryland, um, I remember two really impactful things. The president of the organization at the time was Dr. Mark Maurer, and he started our retreat with, the sentiment, "Welcome home." And that was really powerful for me because it just showed me like this is my people, right? Like this is my group, this is where I belong. You are, one of us. Um, Immediately followed by, this is your home. We want you to explore it. Just know that if you get lost, we're not coming to find you, right? So it was the belief in our ability as 13, 14, 15-year-old kids to not only go explore and to have an adventure, but to find our way back from that adventure. Mind you, that resulted in me and two of my friends getting locked into a parking garage, and one of us had to almost scale the gate to get out of the parking garage to go to the front door to get us let back in. Luckily, someone did come find us at the perfect moment for Roman not have to go over the top of the gate. But that
But
really
that
started me
wasn't you.
down.
That wasn't you that was going to scale the gate.
No, my spidey senses, I hadn't been bitten by the spider at that point yet, so
Okay.
I didn't have that skill.
Makes
Yeah,
sense. Okay.
yeah, bummer. I know, bummer, missed opportunity. Um, but that really started me down this trajectory of feeling this sense of community. Fast forward to when I was, starting college, and the Iowa Association of Blind Students was forming. Again, I was kind of finding those people in my state. And I had drive-by experiences. I had a couple of blind friends from the state of Iowa who were involved in Braille challenges and things of that nature. But I didn't really have that I can call this person at 2 a.m. and tell them how inadequate I'm feeling kind of group until I got really heavily involved in the National Association of Blind Students after I won my scholarship in 2018. And I remember getting this really pivotal piece of advice from a friend of mine. We actually have the exact same birthday. He's 2 years older than me to the day, so he thinks he can tell me what to do. Um, he said to me, Elizabeth, don't be afraid to get involved, but maintain your friends in the outside world, right? He wanted me to embrace that kind of sense of normalcy that I think I came into the Federation with. So not only did I find this incredible group, but also I was really encouraged to maintain my connections outside of it because I do think that sometimes we get comfortable and we get lost, right? It's powerful, it's intoxicating to feel like we belong. And getting overwhelmed by that is really easily. So with that, Murray, I'm going to kick it back to you for your thoughts on inclusive communities or anything you want to share, kind of parallel to, perpendicular to what I've got going on.
Yeah, it's a really interesting topic for me because I think your journey, in a sense, parallels mine to some degree. So I went to a mainstream school for 5 to 8, and then as they understood that my eyes were getting a little bit worse with my scarring on my corneas, which actually was the origination of cataracts.
Mhm.
Um, I started to lose a little bit of vision, and then so they said, "Well, you should go to the school for the blind." which was really just a classroom in a mainstream public school. And
Hmm.
so I was in that classroom. I was always a very curious kid. I felt like I was reasonably intelligent. And so, I didn't know what the classwork kind of stuff was and the difference between being in a classroom for students, kids with vision impairment versus being in a mainstream classroom. And I quickly found out that there's quite a lot of difference. And so I was there from 8 to 12, and then went to a same sort of situation in high school in year seven, which was 12 to 13. And then, they asked me if I'd like to go into the mainstream part of the high school to be able to take classes. I really loved history at the time. So history was the first class that I was integrated for. And then commerce or economics. And so then I did pretty well in those classes. Like, well, we think you should be in the mainstream stream. I had to learn a year and a half's worth of work in kind of 3 to 6 months to be able
Do
to
you think,
transition.
Murray, that was, I'm really curious, right? Because I think the norm, and I mean this as absolutely no offense to anyone, right? I did not go to a state school for the blind.
Yeah,
I think there is sometimes a noticeable difference between social skill, right? For some people who have gone to a school for the blind and some people who haven't. Not all. I'm never going to make that hasty generalization, right?
yeah, yeah,
Do you think that they were like, "Hey, buddy, you're too well adjusted. You got to go out into the,
yeah.
great white somewhere," or
I
do you think it
do
was what how did that play in for
because
you?
in my home life, I was always with regular kids, my friends in my street, and I always used to just be around those kids. So I used to have
Yeah.
my friends at school, and then I'd have my friends where I was living, and
Mhm.
those were quite often reasonably far apart, and so I didn't live where I went to school because there was that uh, low vision classroom, in a
Mhm.
specific school. So I'd have to travel each day back and forth. And so it created two groups of friends. And to your point, I think it's a really valid point that you need really both to be fully, I don't know what the right word is to say here, but
Well-rounded.
yeah, that's a good term. That's why you're the English major in the
I got you, boss. I
yeah,
got you.
appreciate you.
Yeah.
But it does talk to being well-rounded, to being adaptable. And I talk about that with my students now is to be different people in different environments with different friend groups, and
Mhm.
that helps you grow, right? It helps you understand that life isn't just one way or the other. I'm doing 6-7 with my hands, Lizzie, and I don't know why I'm doing it. I think it's bad.
Stop trying
But
to be young. It's
yeah,
gross. I don't even
that's
do
probably
that.
why I'm doing it. I'm trying to like
Ugh.
fit in with the kids. Um, but it's so true. And then I moved on and got a job and played sport, still in the blind sports realm. And so I had my friends with blind sport, I had my work colleagues. And then, when I went back to university, I did that a little bit later in life. And so I've always had that parallel of mainstream and, blind slash low vision communities working hand in hand. And I do think on the flip side, we talked about the advantages to being in a mainstream environment, but there's certainly advantages in being in an environment where you don't have to explain yourself all the time. You feel
Yeah.
like you belong. You feel like you're giving back or you're contributing. One of the things that I really loved in the goal ball process was, when we get new players come in, teaching them how to, and then watching their confidence grow. Same thing now when I'm, have my own business as a Merability. We teach people how to grow and how to adjust. And
Yep.
sometimes you don't get that just being in that blind low vision group. And other times, if you're isolated from it, you don't understand fully about your own vision and your own journey. And so I do believe it takes both of those things to work in unison to be able to get the best results.
One thing that I want to kick to you, because I think this is a really interesting concept that I think I've had to figure out how to navigate. And I think as my blindness philosophy has molded itself into something much more confident and much more healthy over the years. Um, I used to tell my mom all the time that as a low vision individual, right? I identify as blind, but I have some level of residual vision, right?
Yeah.
I have always said that in a room full of blind people, I am a sighted person. And in a room full of sighted people, I am a blind person,
Yeah.
right? And that's a hard, mind you, this is not me saying, people who have no residual vision have it made, right? I totally
Right.
get that there's struggles there. I don't want to minimize that in any way. But, I have everyday interactions with blind people who are like, "Hey, can you read this to me?" And I'm like, "No."
Right.
I can try because I'm going to get seeing AI out and I have a non-visual skill that like I could teach you how to use. But no, like just because I have a little bit of usable vision, frankly, doesn't mean it should be reliable, right? It's not
Yeah.
great.
Right.
Um, but I think that's also an interesting paradox and something that I've kind of found myself in, um, really connecting with other people who are somewhere in between, right? That spectrum. I have a really good friend from South Carolina, my friend Anna. Anna has better vision than I do. Um, she's also 5 feet tall, so I like to tell her that we exchange goods. I reach for the tall things on the shelves, and sometimes
Yeah.
she reads things to me.
There you go.
But like one thing that I am super conscientious of with Anna is I don't say, "Hey, read this to me." I say, "Hey, would you be willing to try?"
Yeah.
Right? Because I recognize that that's a lot of pressure for her. I mean, that sucks. Like, have you ever experienced that like stuck in the in-between, Marie? What's your take on that?
Yeah, we actually just did this last week. One of my interns who uses NVDA and he kind of exclusively uses voice now, has no real usable vision. And
Mhm.
so he's like, hands me his laptop. And I'm like, what do you want me to do with this? And he's like, well, you can just read it. And I'm like, well, I could just read it, but you wrote it. So I want you to read it to me. And he was frustrated because, it's a little bit more of a challenge to be able to listen to the NVDA and then read it back to me. But it's a process, right? It's like
And it's
I
a
don't
skill we have to learn.
I don't want him to expect people to do things for him when he can do it. And the
Yeah.
whole point of just working with people with blindness and low vision who have challenges around understanding that there's tools to use and independence to grow is that there's that starting point where I've been in an environment where everyone's done everything for me, and I'm just going to let that happen whenever possible. And so that's the divide, I think, in what creates a good community and what's not a good community. When you
Yep.
enable people to do the least amount of work, you are not helping them. And
Hmm.
I'm a big believer in that. So it's not, like you said, it's not a nastiness thing or, a thing where you want to degrade somebody, but
Hmm.
it's an opportunity to be independent and to show what you can do to somebody else. So show what you can do with somebody else.
Yeah.
And it's about self advocacy. And we talk a lot at the moment about advocacy and educating people and being that person who can do what they do. And one of the things that I really am interested in your opinion on
Mhm.
is, and I'm seeing a lot of this at the moment, is people with maybe Stargard's or retinitis pigmentosa who are losing vision, and it is the end of the world for them. And it's sad because they might have as much vision as I do, and I do just fine. But to them, obviously, when you lose 90% of your vision, it's confronting. And I'm not saying it's not. Absolutely, it is. But I hate people who stop living because of that. And I see it all the time now. And it's a concern for me because I think, one, they're not in the right environment to really understand their toolkit and the adjustments that need to have happen. And that's one of the problems. And they don't know anybody else who's blind because they haven't been in that situation. And so then they don't have any coping mechanisms. I'd be really interested in your take on that.
Yeah, I do want to just hop in and kind of modify one thing you said. You said I hate people who, I think it's I hate when
Yes,
people,
I'm sorry.
right?
You're not
No,
hate.
and I think that that's a really important distinction, right? We
Yeah.
don't want to blame the person.
Yeah. No.
It sucks. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing that's going to get me to say it doesn't, right?
Yeah.
I think I have
100%.
a little bit of a unique take on this because I was born with my blindness. I've never lost vision, right? So full disclosure, like that's where I'm coming at this. Um, I think the best thing that I can do in those moments is hope that those people somehow, some way in their everyday interactions come across a person who's got that positive blindness philosophy on lock.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think we model things for people just by living. Um, and sometimes that's a lot of pressure, right? My thought is, I've been blind for almost 28 years. I would so much rather be who I am and where I am in life than dead. I mean, it sounds really flippant, but like I get to have interactions with my fifth and sixth graders on the daily where they ask me, really good questions. I went into the first and second grade classroom the other day and I got to have this really awesome conversation with a totally able-bodied 6-year-old little boy. And he just went, Miss Elizabeth, is it frustrating to be blind? And I was like, James, I would love to tell you. Okay. Is it frustrating to be six? Right? Like we all have things
Yeah.
that are give and take, A sighted person's life isn't perfect either. Um, I had a conversation with somebody the other day where they were like, dude, I'm making progress on my college loans. And I was like, can't relate, bro. Right? Voc Rehab paid for my degree. Like, yes, does it suck that I can't drive a car? 110%. Right? But I graduated debt free from college. Okay. Little bit of a different
Trade-offs.
experience
Yeah.
when
Trade-
you are losing that vision.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that I would toss out and that I hope people are really like encouraging in themselves and in other people is you are going through a version of the grieving process, right? Grieving process, DABDA, it's let's see, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. And those are not chronological steps. You can go from being in denial to bargaining with the world to being crazy depressed to being really angry back to in denial, right? Like it's not a linear process. Let yourself feel what you need to feel, but for the love of all that is holy, have somebody in your life who's going to say, okay, enough is enough. We're going to figure this out together. I don't care if that's your mom. I don't care if that's your neighbor. I don't care if it's a random person you met in the line at Subway, right? The restaurant, not the train station. Please don't talk to strangers at the Subway train stations. Um, but like,
Some of the best conversations happen in the subway, Lizzie. What are you talking about?
it's actually really true. I met a really nice dad in Philly one time who was really curious about my learning shades. Anyway, I think it's worth recognizing in that moment, like pause, feel what you need to feel, grieve what you need to grieve. And when you are ready, the blindness community is here to show you that your life's not over. Let us show that to you. And I
And
know that that's really scary.
and it's growing all the time. I mean, I've kind of dove feet first into TikTok land and Blind Talk, which is a great community. And there's
Mhm.
some amazing people in that community. And I have to say, it's been invigorating for me. And, just to go back a couple steps, I've
Uh-huh.
lost my vision twice
Yep.
from what I was born with. So I was born with about 2200 vision in my right eye, legal blindness, and I have about 2200 vision in my left eye, so only like 1%.
Hmm.
Not very usable, and has only half a field of vision.
Hmm.
So I had, 10%, which again, to many people who are sighted, sounds horrific and
That's so scary.
not manageable, right? And they're like, well, how do you do this? And how do you do that? And you just do it, right? You train to do it, and your experience in
Mhm.
life shows you how to do it, and you have a toolkit on how to do it.
Yep.
But I lost my vision completely through my later teen years into my early 20s. And
Mhm.
from pretty much 22 to 28, I only had about 2% vision, right?
Mhm.
Not very useful sight at all. Cataracts had to completely grow over before they were taken out. Nearly went completely blind. Had to
Mhm.
use a cane full time. Had to use a big
Mhm.
closed circuit television full time. That was my life, right? But
Mhm.
I never stopped playing sport. I never stopped working. I never stopped doing the things that I knew were important for me to do. And I just toolkitted it and found a different way to do it. I
Mhm.
think later in life, when I had a minor stroke a couple of years back and I lost significant vision again after the
Mhm.
stroke for 6 months, that was a really difficult time because I was the CEO of Disability Sports Australia. I had
Mhm.
things that I needed to do on a functional day to day basis that
Yep.
needed a level of sight because that's how I used to do it. And
Yep.
I really struggled in that 6 month period, probably more than in my 20s, to be able to come to terms with that. Oh, it's an inconvenience. My little pinky was like paralyzed. I couldn't hit the A button
Oh,
on a keyboard. I was like, it was just so frustrating for me to
that's
go.
so inconvenient. I would scream all the
Oh,
time.
and of course, what do? Go write a book. So that's a lot of fun with no
Classic.
button, no. But the story is that toolkit, community, environment, all these things that you learn through life are so important. And
Hmm.
I just feel like for those people who have just lost a bunch of sight because of these conditions, it is, like you said, so confronting, and they go through such a turbulent time.
Yep.
But now there are people who have been through that who are leading the way again. You know, we had
Yep.
Temi on a little bit. She's just one of many on Blind Talk who really have been through that process,
Yep.
come out the other side, still work, still have baseball as a love, do things, travel. Um, there's so many people in the NFB network who are the same way, get
Hmm.
out every day and do things. You're one of them, obviously,
Hmm.
involved in your drama group, in the law thing. There's like, you need to find your people, and finding your people is really where this environment and this community building becomes super important. Um,
Yes.
but but maintaining, I see so many people talk about, I'm afraid to talk about what's happened to me with my group of friends because they won't understand. And this is to our point earlier, is it's comfortable to be with people who are experiencing the same things,
Hmm.
but equally as important is finding that uncomfortable space to be able to articulate what's happening,
Hmm.
and you don't have to tell everybody your business. Sometimes we don't
Yep.
feel like doing that, but it's important to at least be able to come to terms with it, and to some degree be able to explain it and get
Let's
it
also
out.
just let's also just really quick circle back to, if your friends can't handle your truth,
Be
maybe
your
they're
friend, right?
not
Yeah,
maybe they're not the friends for you,
100%.
right? And that's hard to hear and that sucks, right? But we all go through periods of growth where we have really good friends that maybe aren't really good friends anymore. If they are willing to put in the time and effort to make a good relationship, and you are willing to put in that time and effort, I'm thinking back to when I went on my cruise, Marie. That was the first time that my best friend since I was 5 really spent a lot of concentrated time with me while I carried my cane full time.
Yeah,
I carried my cane off and on until the time I was a freshman, or excuse me, a junior in college. And then I started carrying my cane all the time. We didn't go to the same college. And I mean, we might go shopping for a day, or we might go get food at a restaurant or whatever. And she sees some things, but traveling with me in an airport, traveling with me in Ubers, getting on a cruise ship, like watching people, experiencing people talk to her instead of me. Y'all, Bryn's a wreck when we're in airports. She gets so overwhelmed. Like, I'm the person who goes to talk to people at the counter. I take care of her because I love her and I know it stresses her out, right?
yeah.
You know, that was really eye-opening for her because I don't think she was expecting some of the things that she saw, right? And
Well,
and guess what? We're still friends. We went for a 6.5-mile bike ride the other day, and some of that is just conversations. It's how did you feel when blank? It's how did you not know that that man was 40 and you gave him your phone number, right? Like it's so many different things that we all have to grow alongside each other, and you figure out who your people are and who your crowd is based on who's willing to do that growing with you.
yeah, it's so important, honestly. And it's one of those things where sometimes, we get caught in our own environment of, here's our four walls, here's what's driving us nuts, but everybody deals with that. I was just talking to someone today, and they're like, oh, I feel like I'm a failure, I'm down and I'm depressed. And I said, you're doing so well. I don't understand why. And it's residual, right? It's like things impact the way that people feel. And then people feel like they're the only person who's dealing with that. Trust me, everybody feels like that. Everybody feels not good enough at some point. Everybody feels anxiety at some point. Everybody feels like that. The most successful people in the world are dealing with this stuff, and it's getting harder. Life is getting harder. We like to say sometimes, things make life easier, and sometimes that's true, but the pressure on ourselves every day is hard, right? And there's no getting away from that if you have vision loss, if you are fully sighted, whatever it is that you're dealing with, that's the reality of people's situation. And so it's good to understand that, that you're not alone in feeling whatever you're feeling, and whatever you're feeling is valid for however you feel. But
Yeah.
there needs to be a plan to be able to deal with it. And if that's a community that understands, or if that's your old friend group that you're like, hey, I feel more comfortable now, let me hang with them and talk through this, at a different level, that's great too. But I think, that is an important point that Liz and I have talked about today, is that you do need that multiple
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 tiered
yeah
like friend groups.
system where you can
Yeah.
go to people and get the truth, right? You can go to people and have a cry. You can go to people, and they're different people in different groups, and
Mhm.
you need all of those things to feel whole sometimes.
Yeah. And I think honestly, Murray, you say life's full of pressures, right? Life's getting harder. I was sitting here trying really hard not to laugh to myself because the other day I went to my grandma's. My mom and my dad and I go to my grandma's almost every weekend. And I'm standing in my grandma's living room and I don't even know what I was doing. I was like getting ready to go. We were gonna go out to lunch. There's this really, really good cafe near my grandma's house that I am obsessed with. And my mom looks down and she goes, dude, you're wearing two different socks. And I was like, no, I'm not. Like, what are you talking about? Like, get out, woman. And lo and behold, I love these Puma socks from Costco. Hey Puma, you can sponsor us. Hey Costco, you can sponsor us. This episode is brought to you by. Um,
Or
and
as we say in Australia, Puma.
Puma, yes. So I had these Puma socks on, and these socks come in like two groups. And one of them is like one side of the package of socks is all gray, right? It's like light gray and dark gray. And then the other side has socks that have toe coloring or like heel coloring. And there might be like two pairs of pink socks and, two pairs of blue socks and two pairs of green socks with like the gray body. I never take the colored socks because mismatched socks drive me crazy. Okay. I always take all the grays. My mom takes all the colors. Lo and behold, one of Monica's socks got into my laundry. And because I'm not scoping for this bright pink sock, um, I didn't even pay attention. I was just like, oh, I'm matching up my socks. Like, no big deal. It's stuff like that that like adds to the pressure. If that wasn't my mom, if that was somebody who was like,
Your
let's
boyfriend,
say, like, I don't have one of those.
your
Let's say,
date.
let's say interviewing me for a job was where my brain went,
I
right?
really, I
Maybe,
really prefer the dating scenario.
okay, let's say I'm meeting someone for a first date, and for whatever reason, like maybe we're going on a hike. So I have a little bit of a taller sock on, and they see that I have two different colored socks on. Let's be real, y'all. There was a trend in like the late 2000s where like mismatched socks were like such a thing. People still do that. I guarantee you that person would look at my feet and go, oof, blind girl didn't know what socks she was putting on today. Like it would immediately be a judgment thing. And it's
Yeah,
like, no, my mom's sock just got in my laundry. Like, get out of here. So it's really interesting to like be able to unpack those pressures with people who get it. I remember texting my friend groups in college from the NFB and being like, yo, I had a professor literally say to me today that I shouldn't have extended time on tests because I didn't need it. And that felt really presumptuous to me. Like, how do I unpack this? And some people would say, Elizabeth, it was meant as a compliment. He doesn't think you need the extended time. And some people would say, go to your 504 office and complain. Everybody has their different takes, but having those people who get you in different ways and aren't afraid to like be there for you when you need it, but also challenge you when you need it, I would be so devastated without those relationships. So if you don't have those, right? If you are that person who's recently lost vision and you're grieving that loss, feel what you need to feel and then drop a comment on this post and we'll get you hooked up, right? Your interests, your
absolutely.
life, it's not over. You can play an instrument, you can ballroom dance, you can
You
play
can
a
play
sport.
cricket or tennis.
Yeah, you can write a book. Like there's so many different things that you can do, and we want to empower you to do those things. Like if you don't have that community, we will start it with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so important to have people. And, like, people are good and bad, right? Sometimes you just want to lay in bed and eat chips. And then
Dude, don't eat chips in bed. There's crumbs. What?
you have a bowl or something. I'm not a barbarian.
I think you're a barbarian. I think you just like pull them out of the bag.
Actually,
Not down.
my auntie, or not my auntie, geez, my stepsister-in-law, who for the first Thanksgiving that I was married and in America, mooed across me at the table because she's a vegetarian. Good for her. Um, so now every time I go to a restaurant where there's like a cow out the front of the restaurant, which was
Hmm.
Hash Hash a Go Go House in Las
Hmm.
Vegas, there was
Hmm.
a pink cow. I like make a point to do a video and send it to her.
That's
And
iconic.
now she's actually married to somebody who is a like distinctive meat eater. So I love it. And so she's like, "You're a barbarian." I'm like, "That's no way to speak about your husband." But anyway,
Oh my gosh,
we'll
you're
move on.
ridiculous. I love the tangent.
It is. It is. I know. My brain's like,
Dude,
um,
you gotta go to Red Cow in Minneapolis, Minnesota if you haven't been there. Red Cow's
it,
really good.
just say Minnesota in the right way.
Minnesota?
There you go. Good job.
Way up north where the mooses are, up in Minnesota.
Exactly. I love that. Um, I feel very northern. Um,
You're welcome.
I completely forgot what we were talking about.
We were talking about having your people, and we were talking about
Having your people. That's right.
you eating
Not
chips
your
in
pink
bed is
cows.
actually what we were talking about.
Not your pink.
Hating people. That's what when you're not a people person, when you don't have people energy. That's what we were talking
Yes,
about. See, you eating chips in bed.
that's
It brought
right.
it all back to me.
Eating
Thank
chips in
you.
bed. No crumbs. Um, but like you're going to have days like that. Don't
Yep.
beat yourself up about taking some time to just reboot. Like that
Sighted
is,
people have those days
yeah,
too. That's a
that's
normal
important,
thing.
man. You
Yeah.
self love is an essential part of getting through life. I do a lot of stuff, multiple businesses, podcasts, boards. So does Lizzie.
Hmm.
And there are times where I do not want to get out of bed. I just want to lay and watch television or whatever. Like it's okay. You do enough for you. And that is
Yep.
important as well to just understand that and not beat yourself up about it.
Yep. Absolutely.
Mm.
All right,
Re-
boss.
resource, Lizzie, you got a resource for me?
So I have a quote for you. This is actually from when I was in high school. I was a part of Family Career and Community Leaders of America, FCCLA. Woo woo.
Sounds very official.
It's very official. We had red polo shirts and everything. It looked like I was from State Farm or a McDonald's employee all the time. Um,
They call you, what's the kid from State Farm? And
Jake from
that's the
State
commercial.
Farm at 3 in the morning. Who is this? This is Jake from State Farm. What are you wearing, Jake from State Farm? Khakis. Do you know
Not
that commercial?
familiar with that meme, but I'm sure.
Dude, you don't know the commercial?
No,
We're fighting. I'm gonna text you a link. Okay. Um,
it won't be as impressive as you dressed up as Grease, I have to say.
that was such a
That
niche
was it.
photo. And
That was
I need that to
exceptional.
like either never see the light of day or to be like on a billboard somewhere. Like
Just
those are the only
sitting.
two
It's just
options.
sitting in my inbox and just waiting.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
So I would say that we went to this inspirational speaker, which is such a gross term. I want to call it motivational speaker because I like that better. Um,
They use that particular voice that you just used because it sounds like a woman from the 80s with really big shoulder pads and crazy, crazy hair.
I mean, like my hair's in a side ponytail right now, so I wouldn't
Yeah.
call that crazy, crazy, but like we'll work on it. I'm
Okay.
thinking about chopping it all off. Anyway,
You do have the Spider-Man pads.
I got to be able to tuck my hair so I can get my spidey senses going, you know? It's
Right.
it's
Yeah.
natural. Don't worry
Weather.
about it. Don't question it. Don't
Right.
question it. Um so I'm sitting in this room listening to this motivational speaker, and he's talking a lot about the impact that we can have on each other's lives, right? And he's been really weighing on my mind a lot in our conversation about building community and the comfort that we find in people and the breaks that we need to take from people and all this. And he would say, "Don't be a bird." Okay? I'm terrified of birds, so this really, really tracks with me. His whole belief was like, don't be the person who craps on somebody else's day. Be the person who uplifts, not the person who brings down. Don't be a bird. So whether you're building a community, whether you're adding to, subtracting from your life, right? Don't be a bird and don't permit other people to be birds in your life. Figure out what works for you and run with it. That is my resource of the day. Shout out to that very tiny man. I think he was like 5'2", but he was really good at his job. He reminded me a lot of Kevin Hart. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Did you have to reach for that? Because Kevin Hart has to reach for a lot of things.
I didn't, but he probably would. But
Yeah. My resource is actually something that I've already talked about today, and that is Blind Talk. I am like super involved now with Blind Talk, and I love it. There's so many different people on there, from lawyers to
Mhm,
professionals to stay-at-home moms to anything
mhm,
you can think of. And they have a different story to tell, different eye conditions to talk about,
mhm,
different ways of dealing with things. And there's so much resource just with people who have been through what you might be going through right now. Or
mhm.
if you're a student, just kind of trying to find your way in life and like, oh, what am I going to do? How am I going to get to know myself better? I recommend hashtag blind talk and find your people, that relate to you. Um, that's important, and we've all had people that have related to us and we've mentored, and it's such an important experience to just have someone to relate to. So go find that person. That's important.
Please just make sure that they are embodying that positive blindness philosophy, right? We don't want the toxic positivity, but like, don't be following all the homies who are like, my life is over. Their
Yes.
life might be over in that moment, but tomorrow could be better. It's a lot of attitude too,
I
right?
did.
So
I did see
just
a
go,
video the other day of someone who maybe didn't have the best transition to blindness,
yeah.
and she did a video that said, "You just need to think more positive to be richer." And I said, as a comment, "You also might want to have some work ethic."
I would recommend the National Federation of the Blind's TikTok, and I would also recommend the National Association of Blind Students. I think they do a lot of fun stuff. One of the first NFB videos ever posted was President Riccobono, like in a suit and tie, looking very official, but he's got kicks on, and it's just like a perfect embodiment of Mark as a human being. I think it's hilarious. I love it. Um,
Mark's a
and
great tennis player. Did you know? He came down in Orlando
really,
and played some tennis with me. And for a president, he
I'm
wasn't.
gonna text him and be like, dude, I didn't know you were a tennis
Yeah,
pro.
he
What?
wasn't bad. I'm encouraging him to play at the national championships this year. Next week,
That is so cool.
next week, I think we should start talking about the national convention a little bit,
Yay! Yes.
and it'll be in Austin, Texas, in July.
July
And
3rd through the 8th, 2026, baby.
and Lizzie is going to come and play blind tennis this time when she like faked it until she didn't make it last year.
I'm gonna do my
Uh,
best. Absolutely.
and I've turned up to Lizzie's, sessions. In fact, Lizzie, you'll be pleased to know that at Stronger Together convention in Washington State, we are going to play the 1 to 10 game, where
Yay!
we all sit in a room and then we count to 10 without talking over each other.
Hey, my fifth and sixth graders are up to 20 now, in case you wanted to know.
Nice.
Humble brag. Humble
Love
brag.
that game. Love that game.
Yes.
That was introduced to me by Lizzie. So in my first session that I met her.
Well, I have to give it to Mary Jo Sod. I learned it as an acting exercise in college. It is not me. I'm just passing on the genius. But thank you for the plug. I appreciate it. I'm glad it's changing lives.
It is changing lives for sure. People,
Yeah.
comment, like, engage. We are
And
out for today. Enjoy your week, and we'll be back next week.
thanks, guys. Have a great week.